So, as my husband so very rightly pointed out, I reached that point rather quickly, surprisingly, where I got familiar enough with doing recordings that I started having artistic thoughts and opinions about how to do them better, about what I ought to do to improve, to make it more interesting. I made myself a spreadsheet of all the different ideas that I had for things I'd like to read or record. And then I promptly worked myself into the headspace of not being able to record. And he called me out on that. Smart man. Damn him. He's sometimes too clever for my own good. I should check, though, and see, is my mic working at volume that I am okay with? Because it's looking a bit funny on Audacity right now. And I was right. It is a bit funny. It was a little too quiet, which was a problem that I had with my last two poetry readings as well. They sounded quite fine to me when I was listening to them through headphones, and then when I tried to play them back on the regular speakers of my laptop, it was basically worse than a whisper. There is a lot that I have to learn still. But I think I have managed to get it at a decent point now. I finally figured out where to look in order to see how much it is recording my volume at. That's helpful to know. I don't really know what else I can do to improve it, but I think we've got a good progress going right now. Let's check again. This shit is tricky. I really don't have any idea what I'm doing, so we're going to try a little experiment right now where I do not change the volume of my voice, but I play with this one little knob right here to see if the volume labeled knob on my microphone actually raises the volume of what's being recorded. I am still at roughly the same volume and still at roughly the same distance and roughly the same placement, but this is currently at maximum volume, whereas now I am rolling it back down, 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 and we're going to see whether or not putting it down to the bottom volume does anything at all for the recording quality. And the verdict is kind of, maybe, definitely not enough to actually be a setting that I am concerned with when it comes to the amount of noise that I am generating in order to be heard. So that means that the next one to play with is this gain button on the back here. The one video that I managed to find from a female recording streamer, I think she was a streamer, maybe a podcast creator, whatever. She recommended turning the gain down all the way to the bottom to record her voice. And I don't know if that's going to do anything for me, but we're going to find out whether or not now, currently at the bottom, it does seem to be having an effect. Whereas turning it back up, turning it back up, and turning it back up again does definitely affect the lines that are appearing on my screen. That is very important to know. Well, now I can confidently say that the gain is the important setting on my microphone itself in order to be able to record at a volume that will be appropriately audible based on just the microphone itself. That is the knob that matters on the Yeti Blue. Now, the other thing that I just noticed is that over here on Audacity, there is these slider bars. One is a left to right, and the other one is a volume plus or minus. Let's find out what happens when I tell it to go up in volume. Does that affect the sound of my voice? We will certainly find out. Now we're going to set it back down again, down to the middle, And now let's see what happens when I put it down even lower, below the middle. Does that affect the volume at which things are being recorded? Let's bring it right back up to the middle again in order to finish this particular set of experiments and find out, shall we? Yeah, the volume slider didn't do enough to actually really be noteworthy. I think it did make my voice a little bit louder, but I don't know really what it's good for my own personal needs. I'm sure someone out there has a much more useful tutorial video on what everything does, but a little experimentation never hurt nobody, right? Right. Totally. Yeah. This just in, I am a little bit of an idiot. That volume slider is for increasing the volume of the recording that has already been done, so that when it plays back, it will be quieter or louder than the volume at which it was recorded. This is very important to know, and should have probably been slightly more obvious in the first place, but live and learn. Like I said, nothing wrong with a little bit of experimenting. That's how we fuck up and find a better way. So this has been tonight's audio recording, brought to you by the need to break myself of the habit of getting frozen in place from decision paralysis resulting from having developed too many thoughts and ideas about an artistic endeavor, the ever-present joys of ADHD hyperfixation, and the letter Y, because why not, right? Right.